Senator Housakis.
Honourable colleagues, obviously I won't repeat everything I said in my previous speech. My overall point is that in this time for Canada to start standing up to the communist regime in China. We can no longer allow them to push us around, to hold us hostage, because we become so heavily reliant on them for trade and cheap goods. They behave like a loan shark or like someone blackmailing you. At some point, you have to take the decision that you're going to take what you have coming, no matter how much it hurts. And that's what Canada has to do. We have to start defending not only our interests, but also the interests of others. That's why we, as a nation, like Sergei Magnitsky, we stand up for what's right and not what is easy. And that's right, and what's right is for us to stand up for the people of Hong Kong. The communist regime in China is breaching an international treaty with respect to Hong Kong. It is clear the CCP is intent on pushing through its one China policy. It started last year with a proposed extradition policy that first prompted the democracy protests in Hong Kong. That has since turned into full-blown and ongoing dismantling of civil liberties in Hong Kong. This is being done through the new national security law that was brought in on June 30th just of this year. 1 hour before the 23rd anniversary of the turnover of Hong Kong to China following British rule. The national security law criminalizes any act of secession, subversion, undermining the power of authority of the central government, using the violence to intimidation against people, and collusion with foreign or external forces. Those broad powers are being abused by the Chinese communist regime to crack down on dissidents. Make no mistake, this is a draconian law with far-reaching powers and implications that completely undermine the principles of freedom and the rule of law. It strips citizens of the most fundamental rights, including the right to protest and the right to a fair trial. And if you think that is something that's just happening over there, think again. This law actually applies to non-permanent residents, including people from outside Hong Kong. And the CCP is using it not only to chill dissidents in Hong Kong itself, but also right here in Canada. Just a few weeks ago, I was privileged to take part in a Zoom meeting with a few different organizations operating here in Canada who are trying to draw attention to the plight of Hong Kongers. And it hasn't been easy. With COVID and all the other challenges we face, unfortunately, people are not as preoccupied with democracy. They're not preoccupied with basic human principles anymore. And there was one participant who couldn't even show his face or use his name. Why? Because he's a student right here in Canada. And if he ever wants to go back to Hong Kong, he doesn't want to get arrested. Imagine. And that's just one example. Proxies operating on the CCP's behalf are employing intimidation measures here in Canada. And even China's own ambassador to Canada recently threatened the 300,000 Canadians living in Hong Kong should Canada step out of line. And all our government had to say, it's inappropriate. It's not that his first threat since being, and it's not his first threat since he was named ambassador to Canada. Last year, he threatened us, the Senate of Canada. Imagine if we dare pass a motion similar to this one. He should have been warned then. He should have been shown the door then. The Canadian government should have shown strength and firmness. And there certainly should have been an apology forthcoming for this latest threat. And if not, he should have been shown the door the second time after making the same threat. These are the kinds of actions our government should be taking each and every day we deal with this malign regime. The threats are real, colleagues. Activists have been disappearing from the streets of Hong Kong, some while on their way to the U.S. consulate to claim asylum. And there are many right here in Canada, like the student I described earlier, who had a very real fear of literally kidnapped off his own streets here in this country. Earlier this week, self-exiled Hong Kong activist Nathan Law appeared at the House of Commons Special Committee on Canada-China relations, in which he referred to the national security law as a weapon designed by Beijing to intimidate pro-democracy activists in Hong Kong. Colleagues, yes, there is much at stake in standing up to the Chinese communists, but it is the right thing to do, and we should do it with courage. As I previously stated, the CCP is one, if not the greatest threat facing our country today. It was done by design. But we must not continue down this path of appeasement. It serves only to further embolden them. And not only do we need to stand up to China with our tone, we need to do so with our actions. And that starts by imposing Magnitsky sanctions for the total disregard for democracy, freedom, and the rule of law, the most fundamental of rights for the people of Hong Kong. We see a lot of media coverage right here in Canada about what's happening in the U.S. And yes, it's important because the world's largest superpower and our greatest ally and trading partner. People have the right to protest. People have the right to fight for the principles that they believe in. It's fundamental to our democracy. It is here in Canada, and it is all over the world where we believe in the principle of democracy. But colleagues, what is going on in Hong Kong requires to be called out, and action has to be taken. Every day I get the emails. I know you do too. Emails from individuals and groups right here in Canada and around the world. I've met with several of them, including Hong Kong Watch, but also smaller groups like Canada-Hong Kong Link and others based in Saskatchewan, across Canada. These people are begging to be heard. They're begging to be saved from tyranny. They're afraid. They're truly afraid. Talk to them. Pick up the phone when they email you, and you'll realize they're real people at the other line with families that are being abused, families that are being tortured, families that are being imprisoned back home in Hong Kong by this Chinese regime. There's actually human beings behind the issue here. I've signed every joint letter that comes across my desk. I've signed another one yesterday as a member of the Interparliamentary Alliance on China. I will keep signing on to these initiatives and keep raising my voice about this until our government takes things seriously where China is concerned, and where China understands that if they want to continue to do business with Canada, it has to be under our terms. Colleagues, I hope you will all support this call to action to apply this very apt law. We've done it before. There's no good reason why it shouldn't apply here today. There just has to be a will on the part of the government, colleagues. The government has to put some teeth behind our messaging to China. And I want to finish off by saying this. Canada is a country that was built on the foundation of sacrifice, fighting back tyranny. Each and every one of us that came to this country either through immigration or born to parents of immigrants, and all of us came through that route, came to this country because of the freedom, our democracy, and the opportunity it provides us. That's what Canada is all about. And if we're going to sacrifice those principles because there's some consultants and some law firms and some former bureaucrats who are living off retainers from China, and we sacrifice everything that this country's been built upon, shame on us. And we have an opportunity to send a message that we're not going to be sold for just a few $1,000s retainers for a few opportunists. Thank you very much.